Hey, it's Warren Huart here. Hope you're doing marvellously well. I'm back here at VK with Matt Noble. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. How are you doing today?
Good to see you. We've spent a little time getting set up, so we have actually been chatting. The thing about VK is they actually have people that know what they're doing over here.
That's what they tell us.
Yeah.
You know?
You've got a nice credits. You've got some Lenny Kravitz. I saw a Mary J. Blige, and
Yeah.
you told me about Mick Jagger and all that kind of stuff. So this is like, you know, I'm not going to name drop or be negative about any other places, but sometimes when I go to places, the guy's selling me something and he's literally fresh off the boat, and that's absolutely fine. But it's always nice to actually talk to somebody who knows how to use the equipment.
Yeah, I mean, it's for us, it's a great experience because, you know, we've been using the equipment more than we've been selling the equipment.
Right.
And so to bring the two together, I think really benefits the person shopping, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because frankly, we're going to look at all the 500 series that we've been talking about, and people are specifically requesting 500 series, so this is good. And we'll start off over here with the SSL style bus compressors, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, they probably all share the same VCA, I presume.
Yeah, they're all basically similar in design, different mainly on feature sets.
Right.
You know, different manufacturers have kind of put their own little signatures on them.
Great. So what we've got, so everybody knows, is we've taken a song, for those of you that follow the channel, Chase Gone, which we've used on several different things, so you guys will be familiar with it. We're going to have full mix, and we've also stemmed out stuff. So I think for bus compression, it might be nice to do a full mix and also compare it to like a drum stem, because drums, you know, you can really shape stuff, as you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Attack and release time, we can exaggerate the rooms and all this kind of stuff. So we'll try and replicate everything on all of these ones here. And we'll even give you audio to listen to, so you can hear the way you can go and download it, and you can hear the differences between them. They're all fantastic things. I'm excited to hear the Obsidian because I haven't actually used it yet.
Right. And we do have the Obsidian in both formats. It's the same compressor
Yeah.
in the rack version as in the 500 series. You're just saving bread on the power supplies.
Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to don some headphones, of which these are the really cheap ones, yeah?
Yeah, these are the really inexpensive headphones. You know?
I don't think I've actually used headphones this expensive before. Bob Horn uses these as well. I'm sure he got them from you.
They're kind of like speakers on your head.
Wow.
You
They're
know?
called the Audies. So
LCDs. Yeah. Those are the
Planar.
LCD2s.
Yeah.
And these are the LCD-Xs.
Wow. So, but obviously you guys will be able to download the audio as well, and you'll hear it on YouTube. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so what's on the left-hand side there, the TK?
This is the TK-BC 501, and their kind of signature to their compressor here is two features. One is you have the filter, the high-pass filter, at 150, an 80, 150, and a 220.
Nice.
As well as an external side chain here, and a blend control between dry and compressed.
Blend is like, that's just a wonderful thing that I personally think plugins have forced us into doing.
You know, I think some of the greater engineers have kind of brought that out. You know, guys like you know, all the guys running parallel bus compression.
Sure.
You know, now you can do it all in one box without having to
Absolutely.
contrive some kind of rig.
But I noticed that plugins were doing it before the hardware was doing
True.
it. Yeah.
True.
But anyway, either way, it's fantastic. That's a feature now on any kind of compressor that I think is fantastic to have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a few compressors that kind of brought my attention to it.
Great.
Yeah.
So let's listen to. We'll use a chorus every single time, and so let's play back the chorus of the Chase song and have a listen.
Life is like a map. You will find your path.
So this is kind of a gentle compression that you would have a typical two-bus mix, you know. And you can, you know, between the different ratios and attack times, you can speed her up, slow down the release time. I mean, it's got quite a diverse set of controls for it, you know. Much more than the traditional SSL. If you want to bypass the low end, you're here, you can just put that filter in. So the low end isn't triggering your compression. Let's speed that up a bit. You'll notice the kick drum is not really triggering it as much as the main instruments.
Yeah, I mean, you can even see it on the metering, let alone hearing it.
Exactly. So we take those out, and now the kick drum's hitting it.
Go back in again, I want to hear that again.
You'll get some of the kick drum, but not
That's nice,
a whole
even
lot.
with that amount of compression, which is huge. It actually still sounds musical because you're right, the bottom end isn't triggering it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's full compression here.
Yeah.
You know. Let me take that out for a second.
Nice.
And back in.
Bring it back in.
Kind of works like glue.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do something crazy. Let's test out the parallel function on the TK.
Okay, fantastic. So now we have our stereo bus, which is crushed to death.
Yep.
Just so we can get that. Now we're going to back off on the blend, bring life back into it. But you can still hear the attack.
Yeah.
Because of that. Full limit, 10:1, auto release time, fast attack, and then threshold's maxed out. So this is a 50-50 blend.
Right.
And you can see it's just destroying it.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
You know, and you could add.
But it's bringing so much energy into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, this is dry.
Yeah.
And now this is about 50-50. And as an example, there's our compression.
Sure.
You know.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. So let's check out the so what's this? The
Smart Research. This is the C1LA. So this unit, their specialty is you have metering for the left or the right side.
Yep.
You can stereo link it, meaning it'll work as 2 mono compressors, but with 1 set of controls, which is the limitation of, you know, the 500 series real estate. But it can be a stereo compressor or 2 monos. It also has a soft knee function, as well as, you know, it has a few limited ratios compared to, well, no, it's got the same ratios as the TK, but you know, the functionality is a little different based on the attack time and release time. It has 2 sidechain inputs compared to the TK with the 1 because of the stereo mono configuration. Plus, it has some extra auto release time functionality as far as the time, you know. And then here's your external sidechain switch.
Great.
It also has the filters like this one, slightly different frequencies.
Perfect. Let's give it a listen.
Cool. So this is out. We'll go to stereo mode, clearly. Let's take our threshold off. Let's see. Okay, so here we're going to pop it in. This one tends to sound more like the SSL, the original one, because it was designed by the same person who designed the SSL.
I see.
How's it level over there?
It's definitely got that SSL snare sound. Yeah.
Exactly. This does not have the blend control, so you have to be more deliberate with what you're looking to do.
Right.
Here's a gentle ratio. Now this is a standard VU meter, but we can go to reduction. Actually, that was reduction. Here's the standard VU. No, this is the reduction. Here we go.
Okay.
And then your overall gain control. The mix is kind of hot to start with.
Yeah.
You also have output control, so you can control your output.
Oh, I see.
Straight from the unit.
It's all different selections of metering. That's
They give you a lot of bells and whistles here. And sonically, this to me is one of the best sounding, most accurate sounding, I should say, 500 series modules for SSL bus compressor.
It definitely reminds me of my SSL bus compressor.
Yeah.
So let's do something. Let's listen to the drums. Let's listen to a drum stem through this, because I'm interested to hear a drum stem from it just because of, you know, talking about what it does to the snare.
Yeah. Okay. So here's your drum program.
Yeah.
No compression, right? Very little compression.
Yeah.
There's your hard SSL compression. Really slow release time. Let's take the ratio up to full limit. I mean, there's kind of like essentially like a Fairchild type of you know, beating.
I mean, I love that.
I mean, that's crazy, right?
That's definitely got that. So let's go back to the other one.
To this guy.
Yeah, because I'm interested to hear what it will do. Because obviously the kick is the snare sounds fantastic on that.
Yeah.
But also the kick is getting, you know,
Annihilated.
annihilated. So let's just see what happens with the sidechain function.
Okay, so
Let's do
whenever you're ready.
similar-ish kind of thing.
So that's massive compression there. Let's go to very big ratio. So, I mean, it's a much different sound.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as, in my opinion, it's not really as authentic
Right.
of a sound that you'd expect from this design.
But it's a great sounding compressor.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my personal take on it is this one's really great for the overall program.
Sure.
But if you want to use that example of the drums alone,
Yeah.
the original design I think does a little bit more of a accurate.
There's something about an SSL bus compressor that just makes the snare sound special.
Yeah.
You know, and it just sounds like the records, you know, the better sounding records from the late 70s through the 80s and mid 90s.
Exactly.
But I do love it's like a chalk and cheese. It's because like what we've got here is great for that bottom end on the kick. But what I love about that is that snappy snare is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just that classic.
But you've got the
sound.
sidechain inputs here, so you could recreate this kind of effect by coming in here.
Yes, exactly. And this one, like I said before, has the stereo sidechain because it is a dual mono machine.
Right.
Where this one has just the single sidechain
Yeah.
for it being just a stereo unit.
Fantastic. All right, so next up we have the Obsidian 500 stereo compressor. Anyway, I just love the name Obsidian.
Yeah. I haven't played with this one much, but it's basically the same design. It has your threshold control, your attack release, a sidechain filter, and here's your
A
filter.
lot of selection.
Yeah, you have a lot more filter. You could from 30 all the way up to, what is that, 330, which is huge.
Let's have a listen.
Okay, so there's our signal dry. Okay, so now we're engaged, but still no threshold. This is a pretty good amount of compression with a slow attack. Let's bring that up a little bit. Back off on our threshold. Auto release. It has a lo-fi output, or a
what's the lo-fi?
lo-fi release. Let's take a listen to it.
It's kind of crushing it and sounds lo-fi.
Yeah. None of the other
it's
boxes have that.
distorting and
Yeah, that's probably really cool on drums. When we do the drums, let's check that out.
yeah, definitely.
Let's go back to auto. So now let's back up on our threshold. This is kind of where you would be
Yeah.
if you want to be extreme, you know?
So let's have a listen with the sidechain in. See if we can let that kick breathe.
See how it's a lot more subtle.
Yeah, some low mid, some bottom end.
Yeah, the snare drums are kicking it, but
Yeah, I want to see what happens around about 100-ish. That's pretty nice.
yeah, it brings out a lot of the attack on the rest of the drums,
Yeah,
but doesn't get too kick heavy.
yeah, totally.
I'll meet you later on, but for now I'm gone.
Just clicked up the
The ratio's
filter
good.
one there.
Yeah. It's a nice sounding box.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice. All right, let's hear a drum stem.
Okay, so let's back off a little bit first. So here's no drum, no compression. We'll bring it in gently to start. This is without the filter, so you're getting that squashiness.
It's interesting, even without the filter, the kick is breathing pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's the nature of the the attack release on this guy. Let's pop that filter in. So all the rumble is not affecting it, but the punch starts to get a little washy. But let's check out that lo-fi feature.
Sure.
That's kind of like
Altec. That sounds like an Altec compressor or something.
I mean,
but in a good way.
For rock, that might be really cool.
Yeah.
Very little compression.
But on the lo-fi.
Yeah. Auto.
Wow.
Back to that lo-fi. Let's get extreme.
Wow.
I mean, that's just nasty.
Could be nasty in a good way, depending on the song.
Exactly. I mean, I get a lot of guys that come in here looking for unique distortions, and this right here gives you that as a bonus.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
I don't know how often I'd use it, but
let's go to the next one, which is the Xpressor. The
right on.
Elysia.
Okay. Okay, so the Xpressor is a totally different design where you have your ratio control, your release attack threshold, sidechain filter. I think this is a gain reduction limit, as well as gain makeup and a blend. So we're back to the blend control.
Nice.
So let's get rid of the sidechain filter, take the limit off. Modest attack. Let's slow down on the release a little. Okay, where's our bypass? This guy has a bunch of different things as far as auto or fast attack,
Yeah.
logarithmic release, a warm mode, and then obviously their hit it button. So extreme threshold. Now this is all in drive, so let's bring that in. Let's get it compressing, and then now we're completely wet. So it's got a lot of, obviously you can get really over the top with it. So let's get a little extreme, and then do the same thing with the blend.
Let's take that in and out.
Yeah. Right. So there's our. That's in with an extreme amount of compression, but
I like that
50-50 blend.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, this kind of compressor is not as well known as the SSL style, so it takes a little more of a growing pains, you know.
But you talk about the feature set, the fact that it's got the blend control, it's got a lot of sidechain options. So if we, wow, a lot of options. So this is actually detented between settings.
Yeah, and it goes all the way from 30 hertz or 31 hertz up to 1K. So you can really just eliminate
80.
all your low-end pumping.
Looks like it's like 80, 90, 110, or there's a lot of selection.
And then we also have this functionality, which limits how much of your compression you allow. So there's full throttle. We've got up to 10, 11 dB of compression. But let's say we never want to get that deep. You can cap it, which no other compressor has.
I don't really like what it's doing there.
Yeah, so we've given it a lot of compression.
I see a lot of mastering engineers with this stuff. A lot of mastering engineers. So that would make me think it's hi-fi, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, they don't want to add as much coloration necessarily.
Exactly, and they have a full line of stuff ranging from low cost all the way up to like $10,000 compressors. What's nice is you can see that it wants to compress more with that GRL button or GRL light, but we've kind of capped off how much limiting we can do.
Right.
Hide your memories away, save them for a rainy day. In a box beneath
Now you've opened it up so it can completely compress as much as it needs to.
when you feel too alone. Scare away the ghost.
So if you want to use this as, let's say, a de-esser,
Pretty crazy. I would say, I hate using any terminology, but it's quite invisible. It's like it's adding, you know, it's got a sort of a mastering feel about it. It's not changing. I hate saying anything like this, but it's not changing the sound as much, but it's bringing the energy in.
exactly.
Obviously, there is.
And there are so many compressors that are designed for color. It's nice to have some options that are
Yeah.
designed not for color.
Don't look back. I'll meet you later on. But for now, I'm gone.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. So let's listen to some just drums only on this. I want to hear what it's doing.
Cool. So right now we're still at a 50-50 blend. Let's take it all the way up. Get the threshold
Nice.
really squashy. So there's your extreme
Yeah.
type of thing, right? If we start to induce, we can start to limit how much compression we're getting.
That's nice there.
So serious compression, but not too much.
Right. Side chain. Compression, okay.
And this is full compression. There's no balance of dry signal in yet.
It's nice around there.
Let's make it a little more extreme with the release here. Okay, so we're getting more compression, maybe a little more, and then let's back off the blend. This is full bypass, full dry, full compression, and that somewhere in the middle.
Let's get. Do we have an auto on the release?
Yes. There's a log. The auto and fast,
Right.
and then you have logarithmic as well.
Wow. That reminds me of the. That reminds me of the distressor mode. Is it the one
That British mode.
Yeah. Maybe, and this is all maybes and open to a lot of interpretation, maybe the most transparent. Maybe it doesn't color it quite as much. And maybe that's because they're coming from that kind of mastering kind of world. Again, it's open to interpretation.
Yeah, I think the Elysia is a little more flexible by design.
Sure.
From where you can get extreme compression without sonic coloration,
Right.
all the way down to the full distortion, full extreme. You
Right.
know.
So very versatile. The Obsidian, there's some craziness. I mean, it's like every single one of these has a feature set. It's really interesting. The Obsidian with that lo-fi control was just exciting and fun. The sidechain functions from 30 to 330 seems to be a pretty, a lot of choice. Obviously, there's even more choice with the Xpressor, but considering, we didn't have high-pass filters and compressors even just a few years ago, that's a pretty darn good selection.
Exactly. It's a really nice unit, and that lo-fi feature to me is the gem of the box.
Right, great.
You know?
So another great skill set. The C1, that's the most reminiscent of an SSL bus compressor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't argue with that. I mean, the mix that we've been playing back went through an SSL. It probably wasn't slammed as hard as we've been doing stuff here for fun, but basically it gave me that snare, that famous SSL snare. When we went to the drum, it was like, oh, there it is, there's that pa, pa, pa.
Yeah, if you closed your eyes, it'd be hard for you to guess that it wasn't an SSL compressor.
So if it's specifically an SSL bus style compressor, I mean, obviously this is gonna, if that's what you're looking for, it's gonna win any day. Then of course the TK, again, has great functionality. It's got high pass filters here, 80, 150, 220, but the blend control is a massive feature. I don't think it sounds exactly like an SSL or anything, but it has, you know, with the blend control, with the high pass, not as many as the Obsidian as the Xpressor, but it allows it. It's interesting. It's like you've got hi-fi over here, you've got massive core coloration, and you've got SSL. Might as well be the best sounding SSL compressor you've heard, and then you've got something which is kind of borrowing from everybody.
I mean,
It's interesting.
at the end of the day, you kind of want one of each in your rack.
Spoken like a true salesman. No, but it's interesting. I think I like it because I feel like everybody's kind of, they're all doing something great and they're all out of each other's way. So it's right, really, what do you want? If I came in here and I wanted a good, clean, loud way to get my mixes, honestly, I'd probably go with this. If I want a classic SSL, that snappy snare, whatever, this is probably mine. And this is just a personal opinion. If I want a all-around, does everything, it's probably the TK. I don't know the prices, so I have no idea. And then if I want, and I know people that love the Obsidian, people love the Obsidian. If I want coloration and probably coolness factor with a lot of, you know, with this high pass everything, I'm probably going the Obsidian. So they all offer something. If you know what you're looking for, that's an oversimplification, and it's just my opinion, and other people will obviously think different things. But
Well, the way we do it here is that we have the same program going into all four simultaneously, and they all come back to a mixer. So just by hitting a button, you can go between them quickly. And what I find when they come looking for these is that everyone has an opinion and everyone knows exactly what they want between these four, because they all cover the bases, but they all are very different.
Yeah, which is great. It's really, really cool. And yeah, in a perfect world with more money than sense, you would have each one. You know, I'd probably be like, this is always going to be on my drum bus.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, you know, that would be absolutely amazing on my drum bus. It would also be great on an in the box kind of mix if I just want to add some grit and dirt and whatever. If it was more about just getting it super, super loud, and this is good, you know, and if I want, it's like everything here has a purpose.
Yeah,
and you're
absolutely.
right. If you know what you want, you've got a compressor for it.
Well, I have one client that really loves distortion.
Right.
My guess is he would run for the Obsidian.
Right.
You know, because of that lo-fi mode.
You know, I've got to be honest, everybody talks about the Obsidians. People love it. I think there are, especially in LA, a lot of people use it. So, but this is a good find for me. I didn't know about TK before, so thanks for showing me that. Obviously, this Smart has been the standard alternative to SSL. Probably the reason why SSL reissued their own bus compressors was because of Alan Smart.
Yeah,
You know.
and if you now SSL makes a 500 series bus compressor as well, and sonically it is the closest to that one is this Alan Smart.
Right, great, perfect. Let's look at some EQs.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to start with the 550A.
Right, and this is the classic API EQ, the most desirable of all the API EQs. It's a simple 3-band, selectable, with a stepped gain control, where other EQs will have a sweepable gain control. It also has a low and high pass filter.
What are those set to? Do you know?
The filters?
Yeah.
Not off the top of my head.
I don't know off the top of my head.
No. You know, I'm not really a spec guy as much as I am a feel guy.
Yeah. How does this sound?
Being a mixer, I use my ears more than my eyes, which always made sense to me because if I ever went blind, I could still work.
True.
You know. So here we go. Let's take it up. So let's look for a sweet spot for the snare drum.
Yeah.
It's stepped.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's stepped in 2 dB increments.
So we've gone to 5K.
5K. If we want to maybe get rid of something in those drums, maybe like 400.
Yep.
I mean, that's extreme. So we're at -6 at 4K, right? At 400 there.
Yeah, I'm a 350, 400 remove out of the drums guy.
Yeah. For me, it's always between 500 and 250. And now our kick drum, let's find something sweet. There's 650 hertz. That's kind of...
Nice. Before. After. Nice.
Yeah.
Classic API sound, love it.
Exactly. The thing I like about API is it doesn't give you infinite choices. It's like, this is what we want you to do. This is where our box sounds good.
Yeah.
Use it.
Well, and also, you know, I talk about this a lot. It's also, we've tuned our ears for, you know, for decades. People have made records, especially drums,
Yes.
using APIs. So you boost and cut specific frequencies, and you're like, wait there, that sounds like rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we were talking earlier about Andy Johns, you know, like to record drums on APIs. You know, and a lot of records that were done by English artists were actually done in America on API consoles.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's definitely a sound. So that's wonderful. Let's check out the 550B.
Okay. Similar design. I mean, it's got a few different features. It still has the, instead of it having a high frequency filter, you know, high and low filter, here you have a switchable. Let's go in, right? Let's take this out. You have switchable between bell and shelf. Okay.
Sure.
So here we are at 2.5
Yep.
in a bell, 2.5 in a shelf. So now you're getting everything above 2.5.
Nice.
And obviously this EQ is different because it's a 4-band, so it has your 2 mids.
Yep.
So where in the 550A you start at 5K and go to 200, this starts at 12.5K down to 800, and where is it? 3K. No, that's that one. Let's see. 1K
Yep.
down to 75.
Nice.
So you can do a little more sculpting. You can get rid of that 240, but you can boost, let's say around 1.5. Let's get a little, I always get the frequency and the gain a little mixed up sometimes.
No, we all, it's okay.
You know? So now let's go down to like 30 or 40 and give it a little boost.
Ooh. Wow.
Might be a little too much here, but I tend to use this guy here more for drums.
Yep.
And this guy might be a little more like guitar friendly for me.
Sure.
Where I can get a little more.
Sculpting the low mids
Yeah.
to make it glue with the bass and the drums, yeah.
Exactly.
I hear you.
You know?
Yeah, we're tracking a lot of Sunset Sound. They have these in the consoles. So I get so used to, you know, just taking out exactly what you did there pretty much. 50 on the kick, little 400 out. I mean, that's...
and this is clearly the more popular of the API EQs.
It's dumb. It does the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Now, 560s, big fan of those. This, for me, is my kick and snare shaper on my mix.
Oh, okay. Well, clearly it's set frequencies similarly to these. As dumb as it gets, you know, just graphic EQ. A lot of bands. This is a 10-band EQ. 10-band? Yeah, 10-band.
10-band, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, all kind of set at the sweet spots. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of the great engineers that believe any piece of gear has its sweet spot. So a lot of mixers, what they'll do is they'll find that sweet spot on that piece of gear and put a piece of plastic over it and never touch it. You know, I definitely believe in that. So in the EQ design, you're not switching the frequency so much. You're more deciding where you want to boost it.
Yeah.
So here's a little cut in that same range. I mean, it's very sensitive. It's very powerful. You get 12 dB in less than a half an inch.
Wow.
So it's not as
Sure, that's
precisely controllable. So it's definitely a feel thing.
That's what I love on my kick.
I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot
Yeah.
of 31 there.
Yeah, I usually find with my kick, because I'm boosting a lot of 60 in a couple of sources, I actually cut the 31 slightly because I'm boosting 60 a lot and it's pulling up the lows
Exactly.
everywhere else. So this is like the last thing on my chain. It just shapes my kick nicely. Yeah, great EQ.
To me, this is more of like a pen drawing, you know?
If I had to have a rack of multiple things, it would probably be a lot of these. Very, very usable.
Interesting.
Great. So the Tonic, true Class A equalizer.
Yeah, so this is Buzz Audio's 500 series equalizer. It's a
Great.
4-band, well, it's a 3-band equalizer where you have a selectable frequency 120 or 80 hertz.
Yep.
Actually, it's 120 or 60 hertz on the low frequency, shelf or bell.
Yep.
You have a filter in or out.
Yep.
You have a selectable frequencies from 75 all the way up to 1.5 in the mids. And then you have a selectable high frequency from 11K and 5K switchable bell or shelf on the top. Now, Buzz is known for their mastering EQs. You know, so the coloration on it's very, very extreme. You can get a lot of results. And it's a nice sculpting EQ because it's a variable frequency rather than a selectable with an API.
Sure.
You know. So with drums, once again, we have maybe a bell at 60 hertz.
Yep.
You could find that mid frequency.
Wow.
And then duck it out, you know. If you want the air only.
Super active, super aggressive EQ.
It's very, very powerful.
Yeah, very powerful
you know?
EQ.
Not necessarily my go-to for drums.
No.
But if I was doing vocals or if I was doing melodic instruments, you could really find those harmonics.
We're doing bass. Let's hear some bass through it. Just because bass is one of those instruments that can get quite ignored, and EQ can do so much to help bass.
Exactly. I mean, we're definitely driving it a little bit. I like boosting a lot and then finding my fundamental frequencies. Like that's really powerful if I wanted to cut something there. And then, you know, with bass, the top end, people don't necessarily think there's a whole lot of frequency or material up there, but there's harmonics, there's texture, there's definition.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, so there's a lot of stuff you can do there. Let's see what it's like. So there's your flat signal. Oh, look at this.
Nice.
What I just realized is you have a wide or narrow curve on the mid frequency as well as a times 10. So this is 600. This is 6K.
Yeah, I like that.
So on a bass, you might find a lot of stuff here in this 1 to 2K range.
Yeah.
That in a track is really going to help it sing.
So this is a super versatile EQ. I wonder how much it is.
I don't know.
We'll look it up. We're not, just so everybody knows, we're not talking prices on here because we just want to give this an overview so everybody, and you can go online and have a look at the prices because I don't know what they are.
I actually know how much it is, but I'm just not telling you today because we want to give everybody an objective view of the EQ.
I agree. I think it makes perfect sense. All right, so next up, let's go back to our friends Elysia here that we've already seen in compression and see what they've got here.
So we have a 3-band EQ. We have this button called Passive Massage, which we can play with, as well as, let's see, what does this button say? High frequency cut, low, mid, narrow EQ. What they call hit it is their in-out button.
Nice.
You know, hit it, I guess it comes from the Beastie Boys, you know?
Whatever that did, it sounded great. Where's it say?
Yeah, so so we have our top gain here.
Yeah.
It's a mono design EQ, but stereo channels. So it's actually very versatile here. You have low shelf, high mid, high shelf, and low mid. So you're basically your high and low tones are here, and then your mids are here. So if I said 3-band, it's a 4-band. Basically ranging from, I mean, this thing's a very, very versatile, diverse box. Tons of frequency response. Low mids going from 45 hertz to 2.2K. Low shelf going from 20 to 900.
It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's laid out a little confusing for a first glance.
Sure.
Yeah, it starts here, goes here, comes here, and then goes to here. But what I like about the Elysia products are that they're very extreme.
Yeah, I mean, this is... Wow, this is There's some craziness going on with that.
I mean, I think you nailed it. It's a Class A equalizer.
Yeah.
It's similar. What's cool about it is it's all detented.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely mastering style design. Recallability is going to be great. Phase accuracy.
Sure.
Being that you have one control for the stereo band, you're not going to have phase issues between the channels.
There's a lot of choices, a little bit of a learning curve there, but I love the sound of the EQ.
Yeah. I mean, it covers the full spectrum of tone.
I would probably have to play with that for about half an hour to really get into some of the detail stuff, but what I'm hearing on it is pretty spectacular. Great stuff.
So now we have the Neve 1073 LB-EQ, their 500 series EQ minus the mic pre.
Nice.
They've taken the mic pre out, separated to a separate channel, and there's your 1073 EQ, which is nice because, you know, they're very pricey units.
Right.
So now you have the ability to put several in for the same price as the whole module.
Wonderful.
And the Neve is the classic, another classic sound similar to the API, where it's been on a bazillion records. Yeah.
Large
Huge
amount. Let's have a listen.
So same thing, you got your frequency response, and then let's pick our frequency. There's your low frequency. And that's a pretty typical sound. What's different about the Neve design is it has selectable frequency response, but a variable gain. So you can really decide how much you want. You're not limited to the presets.
Huge difference there.
Possibly the most musical EQ out there. Neve is known for that musicality.
Yeah, Rupert designed them all to be, octaves.
Yeah, exactly.
224, 40, all that stuff. Wonderful. Great sounding, as you say, very familiar sounding EQ. So let's go on to let's have a listen to the Phoenix.
The Phoenix.
I own a pair of these,
Yeah.
and I use them on guitars. So let's sort of try them on some electric guitars. So we've got our output level down here. There's a 130 selection. Add some nice lows to those guitars. I'd probably more likely to build to 200 when that's just really tasty on there.
But another EQ that's been designed they select the frequencies based on the sweet spots of their electronics.
Yeah, it's my guitar bus EQ. It's just that you can hear, it's already probably had this on it, on the guitars, but just that extra, it's just lovely on those low mids on the guitars. It's interesting, you know, we're living in this world where if you did have infinite amounts of money to spend on equipment, you'd be like, there's my drum, this is my drum EQ, this is my guitar EQ. But I will say, when I put this on my guitars, I found it quite magical. Because you've got your high mids here, 3's a little too aggressive for me, but the 6 pulls up like the 5 and you know what I mean? It drags the 5 up with the boost, but in a nice musical way, so I get this nice slope. So it's like, guitars sound good, guitars sound great. It's just, you know, I'm sure, you've 40, if we put drums through it, you could probably, between the 40 and the 80, bring out the kick pretty nicely, depending on what kind of genre you want to do, but huge fan of it on guitars.
Yeah, I would think this would be really great on keyboards as well.
Keyboards,
you know, anything musical, or anything with that tonal, melodic qualities, you're going to find those frequencies for them.
And again, I like this company. The guy Rob runs it. It's just easy to work with, and that always helps. So let's move over. I want to hear the purple.
Okay.
So the purple. Now, when I first moved to LA a bazillion years ago, I think this was a new company in those days, and everybody was freaking out because of the 1176 they made.
Right.
That was like, at that time, I don't know if Uri had reissued the 1176.
I don't think they had.
Yeah.
But their 1176, it sounds different, but it sounds phenomenal.
It's interesting, without getting off the beaten track, the BAE redid the 1073 in 2000.
Killed it.
killed it, and then everybody jumped in after BAE and then Purple sounds like they did the same thing. They went in and souped up an 1176, and that got everybody to start remaking 1176s.
Exactly. So in this case, they're doing something very similar to the API 560.
Yep.
Same frequency selections. I mean, it's essentially the same design, but because it's a different company and different, you're going to get a different quality of curve.
Let's hear it on the drums. I want to do what?
It's interesting how the bypass light lights up when it's bypassed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So out. It's pretty awesome.
It's a really nice tone quality to it.
Yeah, that is interesting that that's out.
Yeah.
That's
Adding
in.
to the confusion of us engineers that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, we'd have to do side-by-side comparisons to really hear any differences. My question would be, is this is their own 2520 design, presumably?
Yeah.
Their own op amp?
Yeah.
You know, people love the Purple stuff. I'm not sure how it compares price-wise, but though it's one of those things that people that own Purple swear by it.
Exactly. Kind of a cult
Yeah.
around their products.
And I know it's very high quality stuff.
When I first heard their 1176, it really caught me off guard. I was really impressed how musical it sounded,
Right.
you know.
Wonderful. Okay, let's move to the Pultec.
Pultec.
I have one of these. And strangely enough, it has a 2520 in this one, doesn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, this is the API. Steve Jackson, who makes this, who befriended Gene before he died, who was the original designer, told me that Pultec were moving into solid state away from tubes.
Yes. And they have a full line of
Right.
the solid state design.
And API don't sell 2520s to anybody except these guys. And they did that because they honored the original deal with Gene. So that's pretty, I love that kind of stuff. So even though, you know, they hadn't made them in 30 years or whatever it is like that, don't quote me on that, in a long time.
Long time.
They honored the deal. So they get to use the original 2520s,
Oh,
API
that's fantastic.
2520s. So let's have a listen. I can't say enough great things about this, but you know, I own these two things, so I can speak a little bit more authoritatively. It doesn't mean that the other stuff isn't equally as amazing. It's just I know these a little better. But
Well, the way I look at all of these EQs and compressors they're just crayons in a box.
yeah,
You know, everyone's going to have different quality and, you know.
yeah, that's exactly right. And if you're mixing or tracking, you're going to find something that suits your ear.
Yeah. And every instrument, I mean, I try to look at mixing in a cinematography kind of way.
Right.
I close my eyes and I see the music.
Right.
And to me, the different colors help
Sure.
diversify that.
Absolutely. So what I want to do is, can we put some drums through it? There's just something round about these things.
What I notice about the solid state Pultecs is that they are a little tighter sounding,
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
you know?
I kind of like the way these things sound in a pretty, I mean, let's go.
Well, it's also pretty immediate.
Yeah.
It's either right or it's not.
You kind of immediately want this on everything. They also just have that, I don't know which way to describe it, a bit of a sheen, a bit of a gloss. What's the word? I don't know. I hate using adjectives. You know, the Elvis Costello quote, talking about music is like dancing about architecture. Basically meaning, you know, just listen, what is it? Does it sound good?
Exactly.
But it's pretty remarkable difference. Now, obviously we're boosting like crazy. We go a little bit more subtle, off, on. It's pretty tasty. Even that little tiny bit, because these aren't dBs, are they? I think,
No, not quite. They're more of a scale.
yeah.
But about the Pultec design that I really like is you have both the boost and the attenuate, and they're not the same functionality.
Exactly.
They help create a curve.
Exactly.
So if you're boosting at, let's say, 60 hertz, their cutoff is below that, and so
you can really
you're
focus
creating a
on-
bell.
Yeah, exactly. So you can go like this, which is insane, and then you can do this.
And it kind of reduces that low end rumble that you get.
Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, you've ruined this drum track for me. So you might want to think about going back to remix it.
Beautiful stuff. Okay, now we were just talking about one last thing we wanted to touch on, and that was our friend over here, the SSL.
The SSL 611 EQ, classic design from a classic console maker. Very popular amongst, all the popular records most songs nowadays have been mixed on SSL. Fully sweepable parametric EQ, high frequency, 2-band low. It's got the classic Brown EQ design. Let's give it a listen. So, I mean, it's your SSL EQ. I mean, this EQ is pretty much good for anything. As a generic EQ, it's one of the best out there. I mean, you could hear that range of mid-range. So you have bell control with control on the two mids, selectable frequencies on the mids and gain. And then the low frequency and high frequency are both either a bell or a shelf.
Right.
Very diverse.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most sought after, most recognizable EQ sounds ever.
What's funny is SSL's known, I mean, their mid-ranges are their strengths more than like Neve is classically known for low and top, as Pultec is.
Yeah.
API and SSL are both king of mid-range, in my opinion.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Very versatile. Know them really well. I have a 4000, so I know this. If I only, gun to my head, had a big selection of EQs, it would probably either be the SSLs or the 560s, and I suppose that's just because there's a lot of selection.
Yeah.
I mean, the purple, the API. The reality is like, if you're using hardware EQs, there's nothing nicer than having a lot of selection. However, you hear things like this or this, and they have such a sound that's unique to them. It just comes down to the question of like, I go to somebody like Rob Snaff's place, and Rob's got like everything, one or two of everything ever made, or Joe Barisi. Joe's got like more gear. I spent 2 hours at his place, and he had racks of gear behind the racks of gear that we didn't even get to. And he's a guy that's one of the most obsessional in EQ and compression and preamps and everything, and knows every flavor. So, but I think what I'm trying to say is, I was limited to only one thing. I do like a lot of choice, so SSLs and 560s, whether it be the purple or the API, definitely going to be my choice. But when you do have the ability to have a large quantity of stuff, that's where you start looking at, the Pultecs. You start looking at like EQs like this, the Phoenix, that have great mid-range, are fantastic on guitars and keys. It really depends. Depends on your budget.
A lot of people want to buy SSL consoles, but they're not really practical for most people.
Sure.
The size of them and so forth.
And the electricity bill?
Yeah, if you put like four of these in a rack, you could almost get away with just retracking stuff and having an SSL sound across everything.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That and one of those those SSL bus compressors, and we're covered. Cool. So the Maag. I got to hang out with Cliff and his son at NAMM this year, and I was really impressed with this stuff.
Well, this is the quintessential optimal design. As far as like, they believe that 2.5K is a great frequency. They don't give you options for frequencies. Mm-hmm. They've selected them. What they believe that this gear is in its sweet spot. But this is in this module, you have, it's really a 6-band EQ. It's they call it an EQ4, but you have a sub-frequency and you have their air band.
But their air band's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, their air band is like, you put that on a vocal and start boosting it, all of a sudden you're back in the room with the singer.
That's fantastic. So let's hear a vocal through it.
Put some good
Okay, so this is a flat
shoes on and
vocal.
throw away your watch. All that time you lost trying to wind
Let's get
it
into the air.
back. Summer fades to fall.
Oh, wow.
And winter's cold
Yeah, I mean, it's
long,
just
but I promise
brings up
you,
clarity.
spring will come at last.
That's crazy.
But you know, they've really decided that what the sweet spots are. So their high frequency EQ is 2.5K as a shelf.
Path, but sometimes you'll get lost. It takes some
And to pick 2.5K as a shelf
Yeah,
is a commitment,
it is.
you know.
But
But
2K is like one of the ugliest frequencies, 2K. So 2.5 is usually what I'm doing on like a rock kick that's not metal.
right, but it works in this case, especially with vocals. Just the processing, the way they're going about getting it, really is sweet with that frequency.
It's great.
I mean, listen to that vocal.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Trying to wind it back. Summer fades to fall and winter's cold and long.
You know,
It's fantastic.
But I promise
and then they have the
you,
sub-frequency.
spring will come at last.
Wow.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think about boosting that on a vocal.
Life is like a map. You will find your path, but sometimes you'll get lost.
Isn't it strange how whenever you start re-EQing stuff you've done in a mix, you can constantly find that you want to go further?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Meet you
I'd be intrigued. All these
later
things that we've done, like go back to my mix, put them all over the stems, and then rebounce them, see what happens.
Exactly.
But then am I reshaping the master bus? But it's just great to have all that selection. So thanks ever so much.
My pleasure.
The wonderful world of 500 series. Thanks for clarifying the whole thing about the power, because that was a big deal.
Yeah, it seems to be the most confusing thing everyone comes across.
Yeah, and I didn't know the exact answer, and I did not want to be the guy that anybody who watches this knows that I do not want to come across as an expert. I'm just another guy that kind of makes music and is learning as we go. And
We kind of all are, you know.
what's there is the Confucius who said it, whatever the quote is, all I know is I know nothing. And the more that I realize I don't know anything, the more I can learn. But when I think
Exactly.
I know something, I can't know. Well, wonderful selection of stuff. Now, you were just saying something to me off camera about 500 series, that you're seeing it as a way that people are sort of console alternatives.
Yeah, the trend for people that are building more of a large format environment is they're buying these modular desks, like an Argosy or a Sterling modular or Sound Construction, one of those typical desks.
Yeah.
And they're putting in several 500 series racks.
Right.
And then this way it allows them to customize their mic pre-selection,
Sure.
their EQ selection, their compressor selection, and now there's even reverbs that come out in 500 series. So
nice.
it really allows you to grow as you go and customize for your needs.
Yeah, I agree. I've been recommending a lot of the time when people hit me up with different, should I buy this, should I buy that? I always say, especially the guys that are swapping out all the time. It's like, yes, there's an initial investment of maybe $600 for a 6-space or whatever it is. I don't remember, sorry. But whatever it is to get a initial 500 series, rack. But after that, you're not going to lose money as quickly as if you're buying 19-inch rack mount units. And, you're spending so much extra for that power supply each time,
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense.
Exactly. And the thing is, if you want to have a big environment, you can kind of treat it like baseball cards almost. Let me buy this one today. Next week I'm going to get that. I just had a check come in. Let me get some of these. And there's no commitment of like, oh, the board's $40,000.
Not to mention, when you do go to somebody else's studio, even just to do an overdub, you got like a handle on the top of these. It's a lunchbox. You plonk it down, and you got your same mic pre, your same compressor, and your same EQ.
Yeah, I have an artist I work with that has a vocal chain that no matter where he goes, a TV studio or recording studio, he brings his vocal chain. It's got his 500 series in there, a few other things, and he always has his sound.
So it's great for a producer, great for an engineer, great for an artist, great for a session guitar player.
Yeah,
Turn up
absolutely.
with. I know guys, a lot of bass players will turn up with their own DI, with their own sound, and it's just like plug in and it sounds amazing. So
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a great way to go high quality reasonable cost.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thanks ever so much for showing us around.
My pleasure.
Thank you as ever. Leave a bunch of questions and comments below. I'm sure there'll be tons and tons of questions and comments. So I might throw you under the bus,
Lovely.
which means he can answer some questions and comments.
I can take it.
Okay, good. Do you hear that? He said that. So have a marvelous time recording. Thank you ever so much for showing us around. I appreciate this. It's a treat to do this. And have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Leave a bunch of questions and comments. Let's have a really great discussion about this. And of course, we're going to come back and do a couple more. So if there's other things that spin off from this that you want to talk about, I know we're talking about doing speakers soon and mics and all this kind of stuff, but any other details, please bring them up and have a marvelous time recording and mixing. And I'll speak to you again soon.